Encased in oversized and rigid boxes, Full Circle by Julie Chen, and All I Wanted Was to Get Into Heaven by Ginny Ha take us on intimate investigations of belief. Let's explore how these artists narrate and physically embody the mental and emotional weight of navigating faith. Julie Chen established Flying Fish Press in 1987 in Oakland, California. Her artist's books combine personal narratives with innovative sculptural forms that expand our conceptions of what a book is and how we read. Full Circle brings the reader on a journey through Chen's examination of the cycle of belief. The design on the top reminds me of a compass on a map. Instead of a clear direction, however, I am inundated with overlapping circles. As my eyes cast about, I see one word over and over: believe. Each circle contains sentence fragments about things believed or not believed in. Things I forgot to believe in. Things I need to believe in. Things I was told to believe in. Things I profess to believe in. I sense that we're not just talking about religion, which is where my mind often begins when thinking of belief and faith. Chen's words are open to anything that we could believe in. The intersecting circles and capital letters on this big surface are overwhelming and difficult to track. I find some relief in 5 windows that interrupt this structured chaos. Each reveals something from 5 different categories. A number, like a page number in a sequence, a word, physical objects, an image of a body part, and a short personal text. We can turn a wheel along the side of the box to change the contents of the windows in unison. As we move through the 12 stages, Chen ferries us through a cycle of belief, from finding an idea and embracing it, to questioning and moving away from it. 3 of the stages reveal a drawer in the front of the box, each with a pop-up chart. These 3 figures, infatuation, estrangement, and reunion, also follow along the belief cycle. Distinct from the poetic relationships suggested by the contents of the windows, these observations are presented in the straightforward language of diagrams. Chen keeps us at a distance from everything else in the box. We can't touch these objects or engage them with more than our eyes. These intimate texts address an anonymous you. The narrator keeps asking and searching, almost pleading. It's as though they keep trying to get somewhere, but the destination remains infinitely out of reach. The structure of Full Circle, a large wheel turning inside an impenetrable box, reflects this effort to get somewhere, but always returning through the cycle back to the beginning. When I asked Chen how she decided on the categories for the windows, she explained that the body parts represent looking at the self and going through a cycle of affirmations and questions. With the objects, she wanted to bring in the idea of the tangible and how we attach ideas to physical things. Chen leaves it up to the reader to make relationships between the contents of these windows. Sometimes the connections seem straightforward, but other relationships are less direct. Rather than looking for Chen's connections, the focus is on examining how we make our own. She doesn't tell us about a specific experience of hers. Rather, Chen explores how we navigate and reconcile belief and doubt with our minds, our bodies, and the world around us. The 3 pop-up diagrams trace the relationship between the heart and the mind in the stages of belief. I find these clear associations grounding. They are a relief compared to the tumultuous movement of the text-filled circles on the top of the box. But to access this clarity, I have to turn the wheel and progress through the many steps. At the end of the 12th stage, we are back to the first, beginning the cycle again, ever seeking the answers, meaning, and comfort offered by the things we believe in. Ginny Ha is a Korean-American artist and educator based in Brooklyn. Across her multimedia artwork and installations, she examines the intentions of what people believe and the legacies of religious systems. Created in close collaboration with the New York design studio and artist book publisher Small Editions, All I Wanted Was to Get Into Heaven documents Ha's experiences with the Mormon Church. I am mesmerized by the pearlescent surface of the acrylic box. It looks like churning water or clouds and gives the illusion of great movement and depth. The interior contents, a book and an MP3 player, are permanently affixed to the case. It's fitting that these are fastened to the box. It brings to my mind ideas about attachment, fixedness or inflexibility, and protection. All ideas this book addresses in Ha's relationship with the church. In the beginning of the book, she describes how she followed all the rules mandated for eternal happiness. Committed to being a good girl, she obeyed everything. She begins to ask questions, but is cut off each time with a dense shh. There is no space in the church for such inquiry. Glittery pages are interspersed throughout the book like section breaks. This material makes me think about the promise and enticement of heaven. The sparkly and shiny surface is alluring, although it reads a little more disingenuous, cheap, or fake than the pearly blue of the box that drew me in. All I Wanted Was to Get Into Heaven is narrated from Ha's adult perspective. She recalls the way Mormon leadership aggressively controlled her life and groomed her thought processes, and then how she began to question the institution and attempt to reconcile the significant consequences of leaving the church. To read this book, I constantly have to hold the pages open against the screw post binding, which naturally wants to close. It's a subtle reflection of the church's inclination to keep things hidden and Ha's consistent efforts to reveal information and hold it open to consideration. Ha spent years creating and sourcing these images. They are symbolic of the stages of her spiritual journey and draw heavily from Mormon symbology. For example, this is a hand gesture that church members use to give consent to Mormon leadership. Even if the reader doesn't know Mormon symbology, Ha's images communicate the intensity of her experience and how consequential it was for her to question and ultimately leave the church. At 17, Ha received a patriarchal blessing. She writes that it was personalized for her, although written by a man that did not know her. Rereading the blessing as an adult, she realized how deeply the directives in this blessing impacted how she moves within her daily life. These indoctrinations left a lasting influence on Ha's thoughts and actions, even after she left the church. After this point in All I Wanted Was to Get to Heaven, the pace escalates and Ha's tone shifts. Her realizations around gender inequality and fraud in the church, and her subsequent skepticism and objections, come page after page in quick succession. Ha's anger and sense of betrayal are palpable. The final section of the narrative recounts many specific moments that reflect the uncertainty, discomfort, confusion, and anger in Ha's spiritual journey. In one, she describes her urgent desires, all connected with being a good Mormon girl, while attending Brigham Young University, where the mascot is named Cosmo. The next page shows photographs of a billboard she drove by on a Utah highway. Alleging that Cosmopolitan magazine contains pornographic content, it advertises a website, CosmoHurtsKids.com. Juxtaposing the university's Cosmo mascot and the website on the following page, With the repeating image of the website, Ha subverts the billboard's meaning, suggesting that it is the university and the church that hurts kids, that it hurt her. She followed all of these rules laid out by the inaccessible men who run the Mormon church. She was told what to do with her body and how it should be covered, how to get married, how she should have sex, all for the promise of getting into heaven. The clouds we have seen in the background, as well as the texture of the box, reiterate how reaching heaven was such an important constant in the background of everything she did. I was moved by these last two lines that describe how deeply bodies internalize the church's guidance. A friend told me that every time they had sex, a church song would pop into their head, even years after leaving the church. We were told to sing hymn songs whenever we felt afraid or needed comfort. Reading about the first time she touched herself, I think about what a major transformation Ha made over many years to gain such autonomy over her own body. On the next page, we are instructed to press play. We can push the button on the MP3 player and hear the hymn, I Need Thee Every Hour. Including the hymn after she describes masturbating for the first time, underscores the firm grip of her Mormon upbringing. At the end of the book, Ha shares a manifesto. She is critical of the Mormon Church and suffered under the patriarchal religion, but she shares her experiences and knowledge with the hope that it will help others find strength in their own paths. Ha said to me, "This book is an offering of many layers of thinking, processing, questioning, ideating, and reimagining, while navigating my own personal spiritual journey." Full Circle brings together the heart and the mind in the cycles of belief and doubt. All I wanted was to get into heaven confides in us, inviting us into Ha's journey with the religion she was raised in. Both books are monumental and personal examinations of navigating faith.